Welcome to the 4 Mile Circus. 4 Mile Circus is a podcast by 4 Mile Circus, a independent media services company in Brooklyn, New York. My name is Sean Mannion. I'm one half of 4 Mile Circus and one of the hosts of the podcast.
And I'm Nicole Solomon. I am the other half of 4MileCircus and the other host of the podcast. And on today's episode of that very podcast, we have author Joselin Linder. Joselin is a regular writer for the New York Post, and she has also contributed to This American Life and Morning Edition. Her excellent upcoming book, The Family Gene, chronicles the effect of a deadly genetic mutation unique to her family, as well as their efforts to stop it. It just got an excellent review in Publishers Weekly, which called it a deft account of her journey to unearth a diagnosis of the mysterious family gene that caused her father's and 6 other relatives' untimely deaths. In this fascinating journey, she seamlessly moves from instructing on complicated genomic science to revealing the relatable follies of her 20s, never shedding wit or humor. And it is all true. I have had the privilege of reading this book, and it is fabulous, so you should get it when it comes out on March 15th. And today we will talk with her about all that, as well as about how she uses social media as a working writer. But first, Sean has a social media tip, I believe.
No, I don't. I have a crowdfunding tip.
You fooled me.
It's a trick.
Okay. Great trick.
So just to mix things up a little bit, we usually do social media tips, but I thought it might be a good idea to explore a little bit of the other side of what we do, which is crowdfunding. Nicole and I both managed crowdfunding campaigns, both our own and for other people, including Chris Cafaro, former guest of the show. One of the things to keep in mind when crowdfunding, particularly when it comes to social media, is don't just talk only about your project the entire span of your crowdfunding campaign. It's a temptation. It feels sometimes like the right thing to do because maybe if you spend 5 or 10 minutes not talking about your project, then, oh my God, somebody's not going to hear about it. You're not going to get that $100 that you thought you were going to get, or $1,000, or, that wildly rich friend won't find out about it because you weren't talking about it for 5 minutes. That's not going to happen. What's more likely to happen is if you constantly talk about your project, whether it's on Facebook, Twitter, on the street corner, no matter where it is you're talking about it, if you're constantly talking about it, you're probably just going to turn people off, and someone who was going to contribute may just get so irritated with you that they don't. Or other people aren't even going to check you out because all you're doing is talking about that, and that's all you seem to be about. I can speak from experience in that just taking time out where, while you are talking about it on a regular basis, you engage, for example, in a Twitter conversation about something unrelated with someone. It may lead them to your account and then either contributing to your campaign or just shouting you out for having been a human being while you're in the middle of something stressful. I had an experience like that with my first crowdfunding campaign for my short film, Abel and Cain, where I just decided to participate in a particular conversation that was happening online with a Twitter influencer, not necessarily on purpose, but just because I was interested in what they were talking about, and they happened to check out my account not long after that, and then they called me out and said, "Hey, this is how you do it. This is a guy who is running a campaign right now, but we were having a conversation about something else, and he didn't mention it during the conversation. He just treated it like he was a person. Check out what he's doing." So it can be effective. Don't forget, while you're crowdfunding, that you're also a person, and so is everybody you're trying to get money from. And that's the tip that I have.
So you talked to a Twitter influencer. Define Twitter influencer.
Somebody who has a lot of followers, a lot of responsive followers. Not just a lot of followers, because a lot of people have, like, you'll come across an account, maybe they follow you, and they have 30,000 followers, but they're following 40,000 people. But they're not talking to anybody. They're just like tweeting out news articles, but there's no conversation happening. This was someone who has a lot of followers, but also gets a lot of conversation going. Participated in a lot of hashtag conversations. I'm forgetting their Twitter handle right now, which is one of the reasons why I haven't mentioned it specifically. But it's also not relevant who it is.
I thought you didn't want to be name droppy, and you were
I also don't want to be super name droppy because it's actually I'm forgetting their Twitter handle right now, but it was one of the I forget their Twitter handle right now. I'll deal with it later.
Okay.
But they're King is a Fink. That's what it is. Which is a pair of people. Was one of the reasons why I couldn't just say the person's name because I don't know who was using it.
And they are influential.
And they're influential in film. One of them currently works for Seton Spark as one of their community people.
Fantastic.
So, but yeah, they were often people who I didn't interact with them that much before that, but I happened to be having a conversation I was interested in. I participated in it. They thought it was. We actually had some back and forth, and then they checked it out, and then they said, "Oh, well, that's cool." And they have not a huge following, I don't think, but still they have followers, and they have people that go to them. They have people that are following them and are interested in what they're doing. So that was just an example of how you can effectively sort of approach that.
Excellent. And on that note, shall we bring Joselin into the conversation?
I mean, that's going to be really rude if we don't.
I guess that would be a little weird. So we have Joselin Linder, author of The Family Gene, here today. And in the first part of our interview, we will be talking about social media. In the second part, we're going to be talking to her a bit more about being a working writer and some of the specifics of that, which I'm sure some of our listeners will find very useful and informative. So, Joselin, I know a bit about your social media usage, and but you know, the listeners at home don't. So I'm curious, for example, about which social media platforms are you on? Which do you use?
Downloaded to my phone are Instagram and Facebook. But I am on Twitter. I don't 100% get Twitter, and I know that is a very 40-something thing to say. It's like I go to the Twitter feed and I see line after line, and I don't know what's fun about it. So
a lot of people have that question,
where I am.
Including me sometimes. Well, that dovetails perfectly into my second question, which is about what do you like or hate about the platforms you're on, both in terms of your use personally as well as your use professionally, and why? Why do you like or hate those things?
Oh, well, I do notice that, I mean, Facebook is, I think, for me, has been a really powerful tool in marketing, and a little bit some of the things that Sean was saying, just even in fundraising, because it allows you sort of, if you use it over a long period of time, you build this audience. I think it's important to think about a little bit your branding. I know that's a little bit of a...
No, we say it. I cringe when I say it, yeah. But I still say it. You can say your branding or whatever, but yes, it's a thing we need to deal with. Yeah. It's true.
So I think that, you know, when I post on Facebook, I always had the desire to sort of be entertaining. And so for me, that meant a little bit funny, you know, and then also trying to stay topical. So, you know, I occasionally would like live Facebook, whatever you call that, you know, something funny going on TV. There was when they did The Sound of Music a few years ago, my sister called and she's like, you have to turn on this live Sound of Music starring Carrie Underwood.
Right.
It was amazing. Like if you can go back and watch it somehow, which I'm sure there's a way, it's the like most ridiculous things are happening on this live stream. And with poor Carrie Underwood, who I actually think seems like a lovely actress / singer or whatever she is. But, you know, so basically, like I did this whole live Facebooking of that event, and, you know, people were responding and thought it was really funny. And I thought, you know, this is, if I sort of occasionally do that, and then, you know, maybe once a day have like something funny or observant or whatever I can do, then eventually people will enjoy these posts enough that I can have enough people following me that when I do have something that I need to sell or share or get out there, I have 1,000 people that are pretty reliable. And I've noticed that, you know, again, Sean was talking about interaction. And I think one of the most amazing things about Facebook has been if I post, you know, like a quarter of my Facebook followers will respond to those, you know, will respond to the bigger, more important things, like with the book sales or pre-orders, things like that. So I feel like I've done my part to build this audience.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense and takes into and utilizes a lot of the best practices that we talk to people about all the time, which is about exactly that. Like, you are social with people. You know, you're putting out content that's not, like Sean was saying, it's not just about like my project, my project, my project. It's, hey, I'm doing this fun thing that might be fun for you to engage with me about, and people want to do it just because it's fun. It has nothing to do with promotion or whatever. But then you have this community of people that you can turn to that goes beyond the confines of the actual people you might know in quote unquote real life, to expand your social circle and thus potentially expand your audience for when you do have some. Because, you know, like, I've read your book, it's funny, it's you, you know, it sounds like you. If somebody likes you on Facebook, they're probably really going to like this book a lot too. You know, yeah. So,
well, that and then sort of, but on the same note, I think the thing that I hate the most about Facebook is I think not everybody considers the audience when they're Facebooking. So you end up with, you know, a whole stream of things. Like, you have the people who are, and I think for good reason. You know, some people are in a state of abject terror, and sometimes it makes my heart hurt to read a million, you know, posts about what they're afraid of, you know, be it politically or just in the world. And those, you know, so then for me, like, Facebook becomes anxiety producing, and that isn't, you know, I don't like that about Facebook. I don't like that lurks in the social network world.
Yeah, I mean, you can talk to Sean about that. Sean's been using Facebook less recently because for different reasons, or maybe some of the same reasons, actually.
Yeah, I mean, generally, I found for me, for my experience with Facebook, is it was never really one of my preferred platforms. I really like Twitter. Twitter's been good to me in sort of the same way that Facebook's been good to you. We've talked about this a few times on the show now, I think, that I kind of I took it off of my phone, Facebook, and I check it maybe once a day now because I was on it so much. And there was so much, especially with the election that was happening last year, or so much, and there were so many conversations happening. And I'm irritable, and I keep that usually on a nice even keel, but I would go onto Facebook and I would see, it wouldn't even be my friends, it would be my friends' friends, be their friends' friends, and there'd be these conversations. I'd be like, why are you all so dumb? And I don't like feeling like that. And it's not that, like, I'm like, oh, I don't want to be exposed to these people, but it's more like I'm just like, yeah, I don't want to have that argument with those people because it's not going to go anywhere. And I don't want to be thinking about how I'm not having that argument with those people. And so, yeah, it comes that thing where it becomes like this stressor. And I was just like, you know what? Sometimes when it's a stressor, you just put it aside and you go like, I'm going to use it as much as I need to use it. And I got Twitter and Instagram, and they keep me happy. I've been using Twitter more. I've been very happy with that. I was trying to spread myself too thin before.
Yeah, and you don't have to be on every platform. Like, in theory, it's good to be, but it's more important to be using the ones you're on effectively. So I think and Sean and I tell people to do this, it makes a lot more sense. If you like Facebook, focus on Facebook. If you just don't like Twitter, and we can talk about Twitter in a second, because I think what you don't like about it is interesting and will be of note to other people as well. But if you just don't like Twitter at the end of the day, like, I like Twitter, Sean likes Twitter, but that's not because Twitter's great. There's a million things wrong with Twitter that I could talk about for the rest of the show if I wanted to. For whatever combination of reasons, it works better for me. And Facebook pisses me off more, although I use that too. But
I told you the story
I was going to bring this up. Yes, I was going to gently bring this up and see if you want to share it.
Go ahead and tell the story.
Yeah, please.
Yeah, no, I think I think Facebook is safer because you have this like set group of people that are there every time, and you know who they are, and if somebody pops their head in, you can very easily get rid of them. But in Twitter, you're sort of exposed in this different way. And so I was telling Nicole, like, years ago, I had just started tweeting. I mean, I think this was like maybe my 5th time ever putting anything up. And I had just started following, or maybe I can't remember who followed who first, but there was a very funny, I guess she's a comedian or comedy writer who had been like, top 10 funniest tweets or something. So I started following her, and she followed me back. And I saw, so this one day I was on, I can't remember what happened, but I saw a funny tweet, and I was trying to figure out how to put the tweet on my page. I didn't know how to retweet. I don't remember if it was much more complicated then or if I just wasn't trying very hard, but I just copied it, like the words, and put it on my account, and then in the next tweet was going to credit it, but I didn't realize you don't do it that way. And it was all very brand new, and she, like, this girl immediately called me out on stealing this guy's joke, because she must have followed both of us and it must have just come up side by side, and it was pretty blatant. It was obvious, like, I stole this joke. Like, it was hilarious and I wanted to share it. Not thinking like, because in Facebook, you share somebody's thing, it's like a different audience now. Oh, you don't know this guy, so I'm going to show all these friends that don't know you what the funny thing is that you put. And it's really, I don't know, I knew how to do it, so I just would share it however that would happen in Facebook at the time. Or I don't know, maybe because you had more room, you could credit it more easily. Like, I couldn't get the joke in and credit the guy, so I was going to do it in the next tweet.
Yeah, because there didn't used to be the automatic retweet function, because now you have the option, you can just click retweet, and that tweet with their name, their, like, icon and everything shows up in your feed, but, like, very clearly attributed. It's the same, looks the same. Or you can quote a tweet if you want to add commentary, but that embeds the original tweet with the username and their user pick and all of that. So, like, attribution is very clear, but there didn't used to be any of that. And in fact, I remember having to, like, Google what does RT mean? What does MT mean? Because people used to copy paste with, like, retweet, or if they modified it, empty, which has kind of died. I haven't seen anybody emptying a tweet now that you can do the embed and quote thing.
Yeah. With the embedded quote, I think that kind of went out of the...
Which is good, because it was very clunky. But in those early days, it was easier to make that kind of etiquette misstep. Because I get it. You're like, oh, I can't fit his name, so I'm going to copy paste it and then do another tweet and be like, that hilarious joke comes to you courtesy of username. Right. But before you can get to that,
she immediately was like Joselin Linder, what is, like, it's just like this it felt very loud and horrifying. And then years later, it turns out she's one of the head writers on this new Netflix show, not new, Frankie and...
Oh, the Grace and Frankie.
Grace and Frankie.
Very funny show.
And I saw her name because I remember I immediately deleted the tweet and then blocked her, because that was my instinctive reaction. I was like, block. Like, I didn't know what to do. I felt so embarrassed, and I just, I didn't have at that point enough people. Like, it didn't matter. I think I had like 10, 20 people. I mean, it was so negligible that it didn't really matter. But I just was so embarrassed that the whole thing happened. So I think that might have initially put me off Twitter a bit, but
no, that'll totally put you off anything, something like that.
Yeah, it makes sense. And I mean, I understand where she was coming from, because it is a thing that there are whole accounts, and I'm sure you didn't even know this, but there are accounts where what they do is they just follow people, they see good content, they grab it, they share it without attribution, implying that they did it themselves, and they're just content aggregators who don't give credit, and that's what they do. And there are people whose names I'm not even going to mention on this show, frankly, because I don't want to give them any more publicity, who have parlayed this into actually lucrative careers, and they create nothing, they have no ideas, they just steal stuff and share it, and people follow them because they think the stuff that they share is funny and good, and so they're good content sources. And that's a thing people do, like, and so I get it that, like, if you see someone do that, you're like, but I also know you and know that that wasn't what you were trying to do at all. My professional advice would be, if something like this happens in the future, like,
don't block.
Yeah, don't block, because definitely don't block, because that's like, oh shit, I got called out. Now you know, or you're like, just, there's something wrong with you, and you're just like, I hate you because I'm an evil person who wants to do my evil without people pointing out to me. I would, like, when I get frazzled on social media, which has happened to me a lot, not so much on Twitter, but I've certainly had experiences on Facebook and in blogging, which is not an unrelated thing, where without realizing it, I triggered some sort of onslaught of controversy, and I felt overwhelmed and like I couldn't deal with it. And usually when I get that feeling and I'm anxious and I'm agitated and the stress hormones are flooding my brain, what I try to do now is I just step the fuck away. Like, for a while, I'm like, don't do anything. Just go away until, like, this, cortisone or whatever in your brain, like, can settle down and things are okay. And then, you could have gone back to her and been like, I'm sorry, I'm new. And I've seen celebrities do this. Celebrities sometimes come on Twitter and they're new to it and they like violate the etiquette and everybody's like, they did thus and such. And because they don't get the difference between, say, a direct message and tweeting directly at somebody. They'll think that like tweeting directly at somebody is more private than it actually is. And they don't, until you've got the lay of the land, there's a lot of minor missteps you can do that can get blown up into a bigger thing. But a thing you could do, and you could still do, is you could reach out to her and be like, hey,
unblock her
and be like, I just wanted to say, you've probably forgotten who I am and you think I'm like a real big weirdo for like, even, you're like, who is this lady? But I still feel badly about the fact that years ago I was new to Twitter. I was trying to retweet somebody. I genuinely wasn't trying to take credit for it. And you called me out, and I understand that. And I understand now that like how to retweet somebody and everything, but it was an honest mistake and I didn't know what to do. And I freaked out and blocked you. And I just wanted to say, like, I
should also say she was a perfect stranger. So when I blocked her, it felt good. It was like, I don't know you, and you're really mad about this thing that I'm like just trying to figure this out.
Yeah, and I
felt very like, so that's why I blocked. I just have to say that. This is like, I feel like I'm having therapy, you guys. Thank you.
No, please. That's what we're here for. We're here to help. We're here to help people with their social media anxiety. We know how it is. But yeah, and I think blocking people a lot of times is good, but it's always a balance. Like I would more quickly, rightly or wrongly, I'm gonna block some random like right-wing troll who like jumps on me. Like, well, the thing is, I normally don't even block those people. I mute them, which probably wasn't an option at the time this happened to you. Mute is a great half measure between blocking and not, because if you mute somebody, they can continue to say whatever they want to you, but it won't show up. You won't see it. So they're yelling into a void, and they don't know you did it. That's the main advantage. It's just like they don't exist to you anymore. That feels really good. Whereas if you block somebody, if they try to follow you or go to your page or whatever, they'll see that they're blocked, and then they're like, oh, haha, I got to her. If they're a troll and that's what they're trying to do, which I don't really think was this woman's situation. But like I definitely recommend, if there's some random right-wing troll, I think it's very important for all of us to think about what we spend our time and energy on, because we all have a limited amount of it. And this is what I was thinking of when both of you were talking about Facebook becoming stressful and being like, that's not a good use of anybody's time or energy. And similarly, like fighting trolls most of the time for me is not a good use of my time or energy. The amount of stress it causes me is not worth whatever good it does, which I think is none. So I will mute those people. I will make them not exist to me. I'm low enough profile right now that I can still do that. I know a lot of people who can't, because there are just too many people who come at them and they can't keep up with muting them all. It's not a viable option, especially if you're the target of some sort of coordinated harassment campaign, which is another fun thing that happens on both Twitter and Facebook sometimes. But I digress.
And Instagram. People do it on Instagram too.
They do.
I'm just saying.
It's true. People can do it anywhere.
But they can't do it on Facebook.
Yeah, they can.
Well, but it's harder because you're like in a bubble.
It's harder, and
it can be, yeah.
It depending on your privacy settings. If you've got everything set to like friends only, then you've got a level of protection. But if you have public posts, they can and will. And even if you have anything public, there are people who, because if this is a longer conversation, but if enough people report something, even if it's something completely unobjectionable, it's potentially going to trigger something that's going to like shut down your account. I mean, I know people personally who've temporarily had their account suspended for posts that absolutely did not violate Facebook.
You mean Facebook?
Facebook, yeah. Yes.
But I actually,
Twitter too.
And this has become a big sort of social conversation, I think, going on right now, because Twitter does nothing. I mean, like, people are in these positions where they're being aggressively attacked, and then you have, people with a lot of clout, like Lindy West is now claiming that she's leaving Twitter. And a lot of people have gone through some horrible experiences, including Ghostbusters,
Leslie Jones,
that, so I feel like, I don't know. Twitter feels a little bit like it is the Wild West, and I don't feel as safe there. Somehow with Facebook, it seems like I have more around me to protect me. I can delete things very easily that people post on my page that offend me or hurt me or somehow are attacking.
That's fair. That's very fair, and it's true. I mean, because again, like, we could talk about this all day, but like, Twitter in theory has terms of service, and in theory you're not allowed to use it for certain kinds of things. But I mean, they have literal self-identified Nazis running around on there, being like, you're Jewish. And like,
that's why I hate you.
Or, that's why like somebody should kill you.
Right. Oh, right. Yeah.
Or, like stuff that you're like, but isn't this like the lowest level of like the thing that
it's a threat. It's a blatant threat.
And I know, and I friends of mine have gotten like blatant threat and
rapes and murders
and some of it, like if you call it to their attention, they'll. Stuff can happen sometimes, but it's not quick. It's not efficient. A lot of times it doesn't happen. People get reported all the time who've done horrible stuff, and Twitter will review their account and deem it as not violating terms of service. And they're handling all of that very, very poorly. And I'm in complete agreements about agreements.
You're in complete agreement about.
I'm in complete agreement with you about this. I'm not feeling so great about Twitter as like a company. I like their platform. I like using it. The user experience for me I have not had to deal with much of that. The level of harassment I've had to deal with has been pretty easy for me to push aside. And frankly, that is part of why I have 25 different Twitter accounts. I don't actually have 25, but I have like my Twitter account that I use the most, which I do not try to gain followers on. At some point I might lock it, which, just so you know, that is an option for you on Twitter. You can lock your account, and then the only people who can follow it and see your tweets are people you approve.
Oh,
people do that. That's something in general we don't advise for people trying to use Twitter promotionally, because it limits your audience and takes away some of the advantages of Twitter in terms of reach. But that said, if you can use Twitter and having that control makes it usable for you, that is an effective way to reach those people who already follow you. And so it's not like it's not worth doing, and it does make it so random people can't like pop out of the woodwork, and yell at you or whatever. So that is an option. But why was I talking about that? About the locking option?
Because of the experience she had with it. And
yes.
Because sometimes you have bad experiences with it.
But I wasn't attacked.
It was a little.
But it was an uncomfortable thing because you didn't really know the platform very well, right. And then honestly, Twitter. Actually, I'm not gonna put Twitter on the chopping block for this. It's like most platforms, once they have a certain level of user base, that user base gets hostile towards anybody who's not following the rules, that if you're new to it you don't necessarily know, because there's always any communities like that, there's always standards, practices, whatever, that people kind of like. Even like the retweet and the quote tweet, they weren't part of the original design for the product. They ended up adding that in because that's just what people did all the time. And
they just copied and pasted, right?
Yeah, they copied and pasted, put like an RT in and they tagged the person, which was sometimes very difficult to do when somebody would fill up a whole tweet.
And that's why the MT came into. I remember like painstakingly being like, okay, what words can I excise?
What is MT?
And modified tweet. That's basically if you want to retweet somebody, but their tweet. This is in olden times before they had the mechanisms they have now.
Right.
When you copy pasted it the old-fashioned way, if you couldn't fit the user's handle in the tweet with all of their words, you would have to modify the tweet in order to make it all fit. Or sometimes people modify just because they wanted to editorialize on it in some way. But I remember turning like, making words into contractions and things like that, just to save space, putting two words with no space between them, making ellipses just be 2 dots instead of 3, that sort of thing.
Oh, interesting.
Turning the word and into an ampersand or with into a W, shit like that, just to like try to be able to, if I like want to retweet Sean's hilarious tweet that was 140 characters total, and then being like, I've got to get that.
I mean, most of mine that are funny actually end up, they end up being that long because I got to compress them down. That's hard.
It is hard.
I have a hard time with my movie ideas. If you follow me on Twitter, I have movie ideas sometimes.
Yeah, you do. You and other Sean have a whole like Oscar-winning.
What was that one about? I forget.
Sexy volleyball and something about Benjamin Button, and the two of you were having a grand old time.
Yeah, I don't usually remember. Although my short film time signature did come from doing that.
Well, that's good.
Yeah,
it's a good.
It started out as a joke movie idea, and then I was like, wait, that's actually a good idea.
But I think Joselin, the Wild West thing that's where I got on the lock thing from. Like that is apt. I think corporate is dealing with these things badly, and they're trying to retain users. And unfortunately, they have a lot of users who are awful human beings who like to use Twitter to attack other people. And that's what they use it for. And Twitter hasn't yet figured out a way to make their platform sustainable while just being like, you know what, fuck you. No, you don't get to use my platform. And I wish they would, because frankly, if there was Twitter minus those people, like I'd jump ship as long as like certain core people who I care about like were on the new platform. Like, fuck Twitter, let it sink. Well, if you're gonna be this way.
All that stuff is also it's a problem across most of this stuff, most social media stuff, to varying degrees, and part of it's a philosophical problem in that there's what they sort of value, the people who design these things, the people who start them, is it's all there's this sort of philosophical preference for free speech in this very, very broad strokes idea of it. And that, like, well, free speech means you can say whatever you want, whenever you want, to whoever you want, which is not true, but that is the interpretation. I think that's fed into what made a lot of these things in the first place, and then that sort of institutional philosophy and approach to things has bred something that's very difficult for a lot of people to work in.
I think also, to speak to that a little bit, like, I think that so again, with my preference, Facebook, I think you have a profile typically where there's a picture of a person, usually you, and then there's a name and usually your own, and there's information about you, which, varying levels of information. So even if I built a page around my book, so I had, the Family Gene page that I was sharing, it's still, there's so much more information that is immediately, like, you just have to go to the page and you find all these things out that it's harder to hide. Whereas Twitter, you can have a picture of a cat and then the name, F27B with an @ sign, like, you don't, whatever name, and then you can be insane because there's no, you're so hidden, and there's no way if I go to your page that I can find anything out really about you. And Facebook is much more specific about those types of rules. There has to be a name, there has to be, there are certain rules on Facebook that I think are not, they don't deny free speech, but they make you have to think a little bit harder before you're going to go crazy, which isn't to say people don't, because they do.
They do.
Oh, they definitely do.
It's a trade-off, because that's absolutely true, and that's part of why certain kinds of sock puppet accounts like proliferate on Twitter at a higher rate than they do on Facebook, because of exactly that. There are people who have, earlier I was saying I have 25 Facebook accounts, but it's like, I have like an account that's kind of where I share more personal stuff that I try to keep smaller, and then I have a professional account which is like has a photo of me, and I post less political stuff and like less random stuff, and it's like more focused on like my brand, right, as like a filmmaker and a writer, and it's more content of that sort, and I try to stay more away from controversial stuff because that's the thing that I'm trying to push to a wider audience. Whereas like my personal account is where I want to be able to be a little bit more real, and I don't want a million people listening in, because then I'm going to have to deal with them. And so that's part of how I negotiate that, is by basically compartmentalizing, and that is kind of tenuously working for me. And one of the benefits of Twitter can be that it gives you a level of privacy, that you don't have to be like, here's my photo, here's my full name. That can help prevent you from getting doxxed, from getting people who might not like what you have to say coming at you, because you don't necessarily have those levels of protection you even have on Facebook in terms of like having all the different privacy settings, right? So that you can have a level of control over who sees it. Like on Twitter, you're either there or you're not. You do have the option of having a locked account, but it's kind of all or nothing. Either it's locked and the only people who follow you are people you approved, and the only people who are going to follow you are probably people because you're not going to be getting retweeted. You're not going to be getting this natural interest in the way you do with an open account. So which is all to say, like, what you're saying makes complete sense in terms of why Facebook works better for you. Some people feel more secure on Twitter because that's where they can go be themselves. Maybe they're in a social circle where they don't feel like they can be totally honest and open about a lot of stuff that they need to connect with other people about, and so Facebook's not going to work as well for them. Like, I don't know, say you're some queer high schooler in a intolerant school or something like that, And it can be very liberating to go on Twitter and you can put a cartoon image for your avatar and call yourself, Christmas lights mannequin 47 or whatever, because I'm looking at a mannequin right now covered in Christmas lights because we're at Sean's house and that's what we see here. Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's interesting to me how privacy and exposure and public private are all moving around right now.
And I mean, I think that point also plays into why there's not one of these social media apps or platforms or whatever that's like, this is the best one for everybody all the time. It's because there are perfectly valid reasons to prefer any one of them. Or people who just prefer Instagram, because Instagram is just like, I'm going to post a picture and nothing else. That's it.
How's Instagram working for you? Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Twitter's great in the. Sorry, just to wrap up.
No, you're good. No.
It's great in that way that it's like you can do one thing and then the next thing you know you're like internet famous because your one tweet goes really far.
Right.
And both for better or worse. I think my worst fear is the worst side. Like that girl, that CEO last year or 2 years ago that like got on a plane to South Africa and said something horrible about Africa, and then landed and had like just like blown up the whole world. Like her whole life was over because she did this dumb tweet that she shouldn't have done. And I mean, I just think it's like so. But if you look at that on the other side, if you have a product you're selling or something that's important and you want it to spread to as many strangers as you can, like that's an amazing platform.
Yeah,
absolutely,
exactly. And have you, I want to know your feelings about Instagram and, how you've been finding it. And two, and we can make these be the same question, really, specifically in terms of promotion, what has your experience been? Like, have you used Twitter promotionally at all? Instagram.
Promotionally?
Yeah, I know you post pictures of your dogs is mostly what I think of, and they're lovely. They're lovely photos. I don't know if they help you sell books.
No, but I notice a lot of dog food companies follow my Instagram.
Oh yeah,
because of this. I think Instagram is so relaxing and it's so beautiful and it's visual and I love that. I am not a visual person per se. Like I'm a reader and I like words, and so for me as a medium, it's like how am I what am I conveying? Like the pictures I take tend to be of my dogs, occasionally of like snow or like a pretty view, but I live in Brooklyn and it's not super beautiful. So I think that Instagram for me has been, I'm still trying to figure out how to make it. I like to take pictures, so that's not the problem, but I think I don't want to always have the same view. Like I kind of travel between 3 places in my life. And so I have to figure out what are the things I want to share. And then I'm starting to comment more on people's pages. So I do think that the trick to social media, and you guys have probably said this a million times, is a slow build. Like you kind of figure out how to do it. And then which is not what I did on Twitter. But, it's like a slow, steady, build of like audience and then also your style and what you want to convey. So I do, as far as my book would go on Instagram, I don't know, because images, I guess I'd have to probably start taking images off the internet to share. But then how do you do that? How do you credit those? Does that happen?
I have some
on
ideas.
Instagram? Oh,
for your book, honestly,
yeah.
You have a lot of family photos.
That's true.
You can share some of those.
Yeah,
those will be very popular.
Yeah, like
right.
that's the big thing that jumped to my mind. Also, just like the cover of your book is super visual. Also, I believe you're going to have a book trailer someday, and the book trailer will be a length that you can upload to Instagram, and you will be able to share that video there.
Oh, perfect. Maybe that's how I'll kick it off, my new world as an Instagram marketer.
Yeah. And Instagram has it used to be they were like, oh no, it's all got to be a square.
Doesn't have to be a square.
But yeah, since then they've been like, fine, okay, but we're gonna squish it to these dimensions, but it doesn't have to be a square anymore. It can be a rectangle.
And I think the fact that you've mostly been sharing other stuff though is great, because then you add in I'm doing this exciting new project now that I'm excited to share with all these people who like my photos and images that I've been sharing. It's not that, you've got a bunch of spam followers because you've just been... If you just do promotional stuff on Instagram, the only people who are really going to follow you are going to be people who want you to follow them back, who are kind of
Right.
trying to do a promotional thing also. And that, there'll be accounts and they've got like hundreds of thousands of Instagram followers who don't give a shit about anything that they're posting. Yeah. And that's not your situation. You have like a community that you're building, and that's great. And on that note, we can talk more privately if you want to talk about how to utilize Twitter more as your book rolls out. But I'm glad that you haven't abandoned the platform entirely, because it is useful to be there. You do not need to spend your life on there. Focus on Facebook and Instagram if that's what you like, and I think Instagram has a lot of potential for you. But before we say goodbye today, I think Sean wants to play a game.
Yeah, but it's, as I self-consciously say, with each first episode with our guests, it's not really a game, but it's more of just a fun thing to do, and let's talk about favorite things. What are your favorite things right now? They can be anything: books, movies, pop culture, food. I think we've had a couple of times. Yeah, pretty much anything.
A feeling.
Feelings can be a favorite thing.
A great cloud you saw.
Yeah. Literally anything.
I think my niece has been my favorite thing like 2 episodes in a row, but so I'll have to come up with something new.
Yeah. So speaking of, what's your favorite thing, Nicole?
Shit. Shit. What do I like? Oh, the new Run the Jewels album is one of my favorite things. That's all I listen to these days is RTJ3.
Which is something that you mentioned on your top 10 albums of the year.
It was mentioned on my top 10 albums of the year.
I mean, not this year, last year, 2016.
The year that shall not be named. Another favorite thing of mine is, much as I'm not trying to do free ads for corporate chains, Alamo Drafthouse.
Oh, interesting.
Big thumbs up. You know what they don't have at the Alamo Drafthouse? People fucking texting on their phones through all of Fences right next to me. Fences, also good movie. Viola Davis absolutely deserved that Golden Globe. Amazing performance. Denzel's great too. Really liked the movie. Saw it at BAM. Really liked BAM. Really like BAM actively. Present tense. Like it. Love it. In fact, you know what I don't love at BAM though? Is somebody sitting right fucking next to me texting through all of that fucking movie, because like, I'm not trying to harsh anybody's lifestyle or whatever. Like, you like to text through movies, that's fine. I come to movie theaters and pay all that money, not even so much for, like, the sound and the screen, but for the fact that I get to sit in the dark and be forced to focus on the film instead of living my multitasking, constantly distracted, developing ADD lifestyle like we do now. I don't think you should text on your phone unless you're expecting possibly somebody texting you saying they're having a baby.
No, then you don't go to the movies.
Then don't. No, I did one time actually go to the movies. I saw The Hurt Locker when I was like going to be somebody's call for if their wife was going into labor, because I was going to go watch their kid while they went to the hospital. But you know what I did though? I had my phone on like some notification mode where it would like vibrate slightly like in my pocket, and like I did not have it on, and I was not texting anybody. And if I had gotten that text, I would have gotten out and exited the fucking theater to deal with it.
You get out of the theater. Don't look at it. Just get out.
Because the light, for me, like I'm very sensitive to light, and if I'm in a dark room where basically the only light is the screen and maybe some like little lights lighting like the walkway or whatever, and then I've got this light like appearing and disappearing next to me, like it's very distracting and agitating, and I can't stand that. And we've kind of decided as a culture that that's borderline acceptable. Like it's a little rude, but it's not something. It's not if you're having a full.
Nobody likes it, but apparently you're allowed to let people do it.
Yeah, and that happened to me there, and it was happening right and left at fucking Doctor Strange. But that was my fault because I went to an 11:20 a.m. matinee of Doctor Strange in Times Square on the Friday before New Year's Eve. And so I kind of think that anything I had to deal with that in the
theater, was on you.
That was 100% on me.
That's your fault.
But BAM, I expect more from you. Alamo Drafthouse, thank you. Keep fighting the good fight. Don't let people use their fucking phones in your theater, and I will keep going there. I will keep going. And
the Wax Museum, did you see the Wax?
I didn't go in, but I stood.
It's super cool. Go through the whole thing. It gets really crowded, but if you're ever there when it's quiet, just like walk around and look at all the amazing stuff. And I learned that from the owner that that was a collection that they brought in from Oh, now I shouldn't have even started because I can't remember what he said, but it was one whole collection. That's what I'll say. It was one whole collection, and they're actual death masks of like Kaiser Wilhelm and Napoleon. I mean, they're the actual.
They're the
things.
actual. Yeah, because I saw that and I was like, those can't be the actual.
It is,
death
and they're
masks,
they're beautiful. I mean, they're amazing. And then in the back, they have like these medical, full-bodied wax sculptures of like women giving birth, and it's just kind of amazing. It's a little gross, but also a little bit amazing. Yeah, you would love it. Yeah, you would love it.
I'm gonna check that out.
So we can put that as one of my favorite things.
Cool. Do you have any other favorite things?
That was cool. I saw that recently. I'm not a huge fan of the Alamo Drafthouse, but I know that's not the game. In terms of the food, like the food is
I just had popcorn and a delicious draft root beer. It was a really good root beer. I can't eat the food. There's like maybe one thing I can eat. Okay. So yeah, I can drink the liquor though, which is what I plan to do next time.
I had the buffalo wings and they were okay. I've had better. Yeah. And I'm a little critical of buffalo wings.
I'm a little critical of since we're doing criticisms of the Alamo Drafthouse now, that their menus in most other locations are very vegan friendly. They have like vegan options, and at this one there's like some tofu quinoa bowl that costs like $20 that's maybe vegan, and like nothing else other than the popcorn, which is what I ate. Popcorn if you get it without butter.
It seems like a super weird choice for them to make in Brooklyn. Right?
Yeah.
Anyway, I don't know.
I don't know, man. But if you're listening, Alamo Drafthouse, I love you. I would love some vegan options. They can be mediocre. I'm not picky. I'm vegan. I'm just
maybe it's a seasonal thing.
No, I read a thing because
they're just like we hate the vegans.
They made some decision that like we're gonna focus on sliders. I don't know what they're focusing on. Something.
I don't remember.
But meat.
So what else do you like?
What else do you like?
So my favorite things. I like a lot of things. I am reading The Princess Diarist by Carrie Fisher.
Oh, I want to read
and
that.
I was reading it when she passed, and because I had gotten it for Christmaka, and it's really, I just really enjoy it. I think she's such a funny writer. This is not like a complex book. You don't buy it if you're like looking for some astrophysics. It's pretty light, but it's very witty and very entertaining. I am really into this stuff called roller lash. The reason I'm bringing it up is because I'm out of it and I kept meaning to stop at Sephora and buy it.
Tell me more.
It is this stuff that you put on. It's a mascara. Sorry, everyone listening who's probably doesn't care. But it's okay.
I care.
I am obsessed. It's like you put it on your lashes and then put on regular mascara, and it just rolls your eyelashes in such a way that I have become accustomed to, and I love this product.
Like
I think
it curls
it is.
them?
Yeah. And you don't need any curling or anything, and it's amazing. It's amazing.
Fascinating.
Yeah.
Well,
so there you are.
I appreciated that.
Okay, sure.
Very much, and I'm sure Sean did as well in his way.
I think
I don't need that.
It's by Benefit, which I think is the Sephora brand.
No, Benefit's not Sephora.
No, okay.
Benefit's
see what I know?
Yeah, it does.
I've never loved a makeup before, so I'm saying this like as a person who has never loved a makeup before.
It's amazing. I'm gonna check that out.
Mm-hmm.
You should. I was just thinking your eyelashes needed more something.
They're not rolled.
More curl.
No.
Yeah. That's our main topic of conversation. It's how curly our eyelashes are.
It is. I'm like, I mean, I got
you don't
mine.
need it. You're
I got
good.
mine. They're good.
Yeah.
You're done.
Like, I don't know what, like, you're like really dropping the ball. No, my favorite thing lately has been just marathoned all of. It's not that helicopter. I don't know if anybody can hear that.
Oh, I can hear it.
But my favorite thing is just marathon like all of what was available on Hulu of Billy on the Street, and like I'm hit or miss on Billy Eichner and his very confrontational and strange approach to things, but I really enjoy the concept of sort of a randomized quiz game that happens on the streets of New York City, where there's just a guy with a camera, a couple of camera people, and a microphone running up to people going, I have a question for you, and I'll give you $1. And as I've stated before on here, I enjoy game shows where people are winning money, because it's kind of nice to watch people win, and it's a funny show, and it's more funny for the people for the interactions that he has with random strangers on New York streets, and how very real some of those interactions are, where some of them are just like people going like no, and just like almost shoving him and his camera people away, and other people just going like deer in the headlights, what why is random dude coming up to me with a microphone?
And aren't they all like random ass like ridiculous questions about like celebrity news? And because I saw that one video that kind of I think went viral, where there was a woman and he asked her some ridiculous question about like La La Land or something, and she was just like, I don't know the movie, I'm on my way. And he was like, no, but La La Land, the wonderful, charming, blah, you know, like so feigning this complete sincerity and investment in how important this like frothy film is. And the woman's like, I like have 4 kids. I don't have time to, you know. And she was trying to be so nice, and he just kept at it though. And at a certain point, she like snapped and like told him off, like completely right. Like she was completely in the right. I can't imagine anybody watching that and being. You'd have to be a terrible person. But I saw that, and it was like. She must have given permission to be on it, so she must not still be mad about it. Yeah, I used her face and everything. So
I think his thing is an act, because like there's even like one particular woman who like first showed up in like season 2, because there's like 4 seasons on Hulu that we watched through.
Oh,
and I think there's only like 10 or 13 episodes a season. I think there's seasons that kind of do the thing where they're like, okay, we have like a spring thing, and I wasn't really tracking when stuff came out, but
I thought it was
like a spring and like a fall thing.
Well,
no, it's been around for a while.
Show. Yeah, it was.
The Hulu might have the web show first. Maybe that's it.
Thank you. That
makes a lot of sense. But yeah, like because he's very aggressive. But then there's like this one woman who like showed up once early on, and she is a very like you can see like how anybody would be kind of stressed out to be dealing with this person, but he keeps bringing her back, and he's sort of mean to her, but she keeps coming back in sort of a like in that way where you get the sense that like off camera like they're super nice to each other and they get along.
Sure.
But like on camera he just can't take it because she can't answer a question really. She'll like go off on some other tangent
and he gets
or
mad.
Start talking about, and he'd be like, nobody cares about that. And
yeah, funny. No, that's his
thing.
Is being like aggressively awful in this way that I think is funny usually.
Yeah, and I bet he's not nice. I bet if anything, she's just attracted to the camera being. You know,
oh, that's possible. That's possible.
I once was like grabbed to do like a taxi cab. What's that called? Cash cab.
Oh, the cash cab.
Yeah, but I was like a shout out. Like I was like on the street and they were like, "We need you to answer this question for the people in the cab," and I got it right. Thank God, at the last second. And it was Sally Ride was the answer. It was like something about space and the second woman or first woman in space. I don't know.
I think she first U.S. woman.
That's
right?
what it was. First U.S. woman in space.
Someone from Russia first, I think.
And I remember but it was so super fast. The whole thing happened very succinctly. Like there were producers off camera. They pulled the cab over. They yelled out of the car. I was like really close, so they grabbed me. And they were like, would you do it? I was like, sure. They asked me the question. I answered the question. And then 1 second later, somebody had me sign a thing and they were gone. It was like that. I mean, so I'm sure like Billy on the street, they're just like, they've got the people there and they're just walking by. He's doing his thing. And then.
Yeah.
And you're like, okay.
Well, sometimes he's even just running through the street, like with the microphone, like running up to people and like for $1.
It's funny.
I forget. It's funny. So let's wrap up. We're 4MileCircus. That's Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. We are 4MileCircus. That's the number 4. The word mile and the word circus all is one big word. 4MileCircus.com. And where can people find you? Where do you want them to find you, on Instagram or Facebook or something?
Yeah, you can friend me on Facebook. It's Joselin Linder. It's Joselin, and Linder's Linder. Twitter, I'm Joselin Linder, so it's Jose Linder. And Instagram, I think I'm probably Jose Linder also, something like that.
Cool. And Jocelyn's book, The Family Gene, is coming out. It's March 15th, right?
It's 14th.
14th. Oh, I said the wrong date.
You can also buy it the 15th.
March 14th, you can pre-order that on Amazon and
Barnes & Noble or any bookstore you want.
Yeah. And stay tuned next time we come back with an episode, because we will have part 2 of our conversation with Joselin, where we will talk to her about being a working writer. So stay tuned for that. And we'll
thanks,
goodbye.
Guys.
Thank you. Bye.
If you like what you heard, please subscribe on iTunes
or your podcast platform of choice, and check out other 4 Mile Circus services and projects at 4MileCircus.com, as well as 4 Mile Circus on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Watch our first VOD release, Nicole's award-winning feminist phone sex horror comedy Small Talk, at 4MileCircus.com/store,